Race car, we're interested in how the car performs during the race, not how it performs for one lap in qualifying. So that's what we work to all week long. So when you see that time we put up on the board right now, is that the fastest lap that we could ever turn? I'm here to tell you, no, it is not. But that's a lap that we can turn lap in and lap out during the 12 hours of this race. And in some cases, if the track gets better as the race goes on, that time may even increase. By doing that, that puts us in a very, very competitive position throughout the entire 12 hours of the event. And when you can do that, and if the guys follow the 3 simple rules, don't hit anything, don't break anything, keep the car on the racetrack, good things will happen. So we'll see where we are, tomorrow night. And I can go through a litany of things. I can go through the story about the technology transfer. You've heard that. You know that. It's real. It's real. We did a deal at Brett Miller where we unveiled this car. I did a little take on it. Doug Louth, our chief engineer, Pratt Miller, did a little take, and Taj told them about how this thing works. Now these guys are jaundiced, hardcore, car geek press guys who believe about 4.2% about what you ever tell them, including Kirkland. Okay. They came away from there, and if you looked at any of the blogs or you looked at any of the stuff that was written or appeared about this debut at Pratt Miller, I mean, it was hook, line, and sinker. They believed everything we told them, and there's a reason they did believe it, because they could see it, they could touch it, they could feel it, and they know that it's real. And it's what I refer to as cascade engineering, and I want you to think about what cascade engineering is. When we started racing with the Corvette C5. Now, there were no plans when the design group, Tom Peters and Kurt Benyon, and at that time John Cafaro, all working together to develop the C5, they just wanted to build a beautiful car, in which they accomplished. And they built it on hydroform rails, the first major revision of that chassis in a long, long time. It was a great car from a performance standpoint, from a stiffness standpoint, ride quality, quietness, performance, and safety. I mean, they put it all together in that car. We then had to make a race car out of that. And I can tell you there were some things on there that didn't lend themselves very well to building a race car. If you remember, it had those little cat whisker openings in the front for the grill, had pop-up headlights. Well, in today's world, that was 1997 when that car debuted to the showroom floor, if I'm remembering correctly. When you look at that, that's terrible for aerodynamics. I mean, it kills you at Le Mans, have those headlights flipped out. Are you kidding me? Air brakes. Trying to get air in there to feed the motor, to cool the engine, to cool the brakes through those 2 tiny little slits with no room to package all that stuff. It was an engineering challenge. The Pratt Miller guys got that done, and we made a pretty darn good race car out of C5, and you only have to look at our record after we got running on that thing to show you. Our first Le Mans victory was with the C5 race car. But in the interim, as we developed that relationship, I said to the design guys, I said, look, as we go forward with C6, which we knew was coming, I said, how about we input some of the stuff we might need in our next generation race car? And they said, by all means. Because we think that might make a better street car. I said, not only, it will make a better street car. Well, then we went to, guess what? This big grill opening you see here, we went to flush fit headlamps, they rolled the windshield back another degree, they looked at some alternate materials, they looked at some other significant little body shapes, one under a spoiler. We birthed the C6 and we raced that C6 and we won with that. We then took what we learned in C6, gave it back to those guys, and we did Z06. I mean, you got to remember, that small block, 427 cubic inch, well, old school guys call it that. New school guys call it 7-liter. Okay. That 7-liter motor was developed in a race car. A race car is a dry sump, okay? 7 liters from a small block. A gobble horsepower. Guess what? Production guy said, hey, how'd you do that? Come on, we want to do that. You buy a Z06, now you got a dry sump, big cubic inch, small block engine, built right on the racetrack. Cascading, one helping the other. We get done with Z06, we're racing that, we win with that. Guy said, look, we're thinking about doing something even greater. We're thinking about building just a super Corvette. We want this car to go over 200 miles an hour, but quite frankly, we don't have the aerodynamic expertise to do that. And the reason they don't is not many street cars go 200 miles an hour, so the library of information on balance and handling and aerodynamics doesn't exist in their engineering lab. So where did they go? Well, they went to the race team. We had already been 200 miles an hour, so we helped develop the aero package that you see on the ZR1. You see that front splitter, you see the full width splitter around the back there. That all came from the development that we worked with them doing the ZR1. Well, guess what? The race car you see down the paddock right now, that's homologated off that ZR1. So you see what I'm talking about here. Street car, race car, better street car, better race car, better street car, better race car. That's going to happen in C7. Everything we learned in CR1 right now is being tabulated. Already looking at that. Already working with the Corvette Group guys. Already working with Tangent Engineering. Already working with Kurt Benny in design. So when you see C7, we're going to be one step closer to you being able to buy something that we're racing. I mean, the CR1 comes pretty close, and the new carbon car comes pretty damn close. It's going to get closer as we go forward. That's how we do it inside. That's what those riders saw. That's what those riders learned, and that's what those riders believe because they know it's real. And I can tell you, we're the only car company, really mass-produced car company in the world that even comes close to doing it. And we do that because, and think about this, when you think about the carbon, why would we do this? Because we listen to you, the customer base. What other major manufacturer in the world takes the time to visit with their ownership, listen to their ownership, participate in events with their ownership, and then goes back and guess what? Creates things that the ownership wants. Who does that? I can tell you, I've done this all my life. And with a number of major automobile manufacturers from around the world, I can tell you, nobody I know. Corvette does it. And that's the relationship that you guys have fostered by being loyal to the brand and loving the cars and doing things like we're doing here, and of course, support racing. Let's not forget that. With that, I'll quiet down for just a moment, which is difficult for me to do, as you can tell, and we'll open up to any questions you might have.